Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where Tinseltown might as well have been called Hold City. Yes, it seems we're in for some robust movie-going this holiday season, as two new films were able to solidly enter the marketplace, yet the holdovers remained steady. That is super unusual, not just like one or two holdovers, but four. Doctor Strange at 49%, Trolls at 25%, Hacksaw Ridge at 29%, and The Accountant with the best hold yet again at 22%. Now, Hollywood could just pat themselves on the back and say, hey, it looks like we're making some pretty darn good movies. But no, they had some other theories as to why their movies did so well this weekend, and it had nothing to do with the quality of their work. Very Freudian there, Hollywood. All right, so the first excuse or explanation of such a bizarre event was that in addition to the overall holiday mood that's kicked in post-Halloween, Veterans Day did happen to fall on a Friday this year. So it kind of created for many people a three-day weekend. They had Friday off, and they decided to go to some movies. Not just Hacksaw Ridge, but it seems every movie benefited from that holiday falling on a Friday. But then the other thing was, and I thought this was an interesting explanation, and that's that people were so disappointed in the election results on Tuesday that they needed to escape to the movies this weekend. I believe the Hollywood Reporter called it group therapy. And I know, to be fair, there is some merit, I guess, to the explanation because the blue parts of the country are also the parts of the country where people are most likely to go to the movies. I mean, you need the red parts to join the $1 billion club, but people who go to the movies regularly tend to live in the blue areas. I don't really know if I would credit it to the election. Because a heck of a lot of people were also protesting in those areas. Maybe they went to a movie afterwards as a group. But I actually think, when you look at, I don't like Trolls, but for the most part, it's just a darn good group of movies, quite frankly. So I think Hollywood should give itself more credit. And it seems the only damage that the new entries were able to do to holdovers was that they kept Moonlight out of the top 10. As you might recall from last week's Movie Math, Moonlight was at number 11. It was knocking on the door of the top 10. But even though it added an additional 93 theaters this weekend, it dropped from 11 to number 13. So it's headed in the wrong direction. But don't worry too much about Moonlight. It would have been nice for it to jump into the top 10, and I don't know if it ever will actually at this point. Maybe if it goes even wider, because there are just a slew of movies coming in, especially in the specialty market, etc. Moonlight might have missed its window to get in there, but it certainly made a splash, and I still think it's well positioned for award season. But wait a minute, there were actually 3 newcomers this weekend, as Shut-In was released by EuropaCorp. And it would seem that it's not quite so easy to release movies in America after all. Luc Besson? Yes, there's a lot riding on Valerian in addition to Luc Besson's reputation, but also he really desperately needs to establish EuropaCorp as a viable American distributor. It's hard to be the next Lionsgate. Even Lionsgate couldn't maintain it. For those of you who don't get the shade that I just threw down there, Lionsgate Summit, they actually acquired Summit, that's really the only secondary studio that's ever been able to emerge in recent memory that's joined like the big names like from like the era of the studio system, right? The heyday of Hollywood. Well, the heyday of Hollywood. I think Judy Garland would argue that it was not quite the heyday of Hollywood, but you know what I'm talking about. All right, so anyway, first, we have to be respectful and talk about the newbies, even though I think the most interesting stuff is happening with the holdovers. Okay, so Arrival. It debuted at number 3 with 24 million. Now, we all knew that Doctor Strange was going to beat it, but boy, DreamWorks Animation should be so proud they were able to hold on to number 2. But again, we're focusing on the new arrivals. But even though it was bested by Trolls in its second weekend, this is still very good for Amy Adams. And this movie debuted in line with her earlier work, Enchanted, Julie and Julia, The Muppets. Now, you could argue there that Enchanted, that was like a Disney live-action movie to some degree. Julia and Julia had Meryl Streep. The Muppets had The Muppets. And I guess, Arrival also has, to some degree, Jeremy Renner and Aliens. But still, Amy Adams was able to bring in an audience, and she hasn't been able to do that in the her recent box office outings. Also, she's picked this movie to be her big awards contender this year, which I think kind of sucks and is disrespectful to Tom Ford. I mean, wouldn't you let the Academy choose and Buzz choose which movie was going to be your big awards push, but I guess she can only campaign. She only has so much time to campaign, and so she's going to throw her own time and her own efforts into Arrival. Maybe she feels like it worked for Sandra Bullock with Gravity. She was nominated, of course, she didn't win, but still, maybe Amy Adams. But Sandra Bullock already had The Blind Side, so Amy Adams is like, I don't have an Oscar. So maybe she's hoping to go the Gravity route. Now, it didn't do as well as Gravity at the box office, but maybe Amy Adams is hoping for some sympathy votes. I also have to say, to her credit, this movie the audience was only 52% female opening weekend. So that's excellent that she's able to bring in such a large male audience, or at least not deter them. Then also, 85% though was over the age of 25, so that's not so great, I think, for her being in like big blockbusters going forward. Maybe if the film had an appeal to the under 25 set, it would have been able to beat Trolls, right? Because where did the under 25 set go? Apparently they ran to Trolls. Well, actually, Doctor Strange and basically anything else that was available. As for Denis Villeneuve, let's turn to the director. This is his biggest debut. Although with Blade Runner 2049, aka Blade Runner 2 on the horizon, he was going to obliterate whatever his personal record was soon anyway. But speaking of Blade Runner 2, this is certainly helpful in the ad campaign for that movie, to be able to say from the director of Arrival, right? Especially if it's able to get a couple of awards noms under its belt. It's doing very well with the critics for the most part. I disliked it quite a bit, but I have to say it only got a B cinema score, and it's kind of easy to get an A cinema score. Last week, every movie that opened got an A cinema score, so the fact that it only got a B, maybe I wouldn't want to name check it too much when promoting Blade Runner, to the mainstream audience, perhaps. All right, now over on Almost Christmas, the other big new release this weekend, we'll get to Shut It in just a moment, that got an A- cinema score. So as you can see, it's hard not to get in the A range. That audience was 61% African American. That's a pretty good number. It's the majority, as one would expect, but I think maybe we're getting more and more of a crossover situation here. And it's also, I think it's worth noting, the second Black-centric holiday movie in the last couple of weeks to do nicely at the box office. Now, of course, it didn't do as well as Tyler Perry's Boo! A Madea Halloween, and in fact, fascinatingly, post-Halloween, people are still paying to see that in the theater. That's amazing. But I still think that it shows a real niche market that I think that the black filmmaking has been able to corner. And quite frankly, as I said before, if I were Tyler Perry, I'd take another run at Christmas. I think he can do better. And then, to some degree, Courtney B. Vance is in the movie, but white people will take a run at a Christmas movie with Office Christmas Party in just a few weeks. So we'll see how that does in comparison. Then Shut In. Yikes! What is there to say about Shut In? It's a complete box office failure. It has 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's really, you never see that. And also, I have to say, the only thing I guess I can really add to this discussion when it comes to Shut In is that it's excellent evidence that it's really hard to kill the career of someone who has awards nominations. And Naomi Watts has 2 Oscar nominations, so she'll work forever. She cannot die. She is part of the Hollywood undead at this point, right? Even though her career looks dead on the surface, it still lives because of the gold running through her veins. Actually, she just was nominated for the gold, and that was enough. So she will always work. She has movies coming up, and that's why one of the reasons actors want those nominations at least so badly, because it guarantees you will work forever. Now let's go to those amazing holdovers. Oh wow, it's not even Thanksgiving yet. We're already enjoying leftovers. So Doctor Strange is one of the best holds ever for the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Under 50% in its second weekend, beaten only by the first Iron Man and the first Thor. So, methinks that maybe the first generation of Marvel actors does have to fear the new generation of Marvel actors, right? Many people are saying Benedict Cumberbatch is so strong, perhaps he could be the new Tony Stark / Robert Downey Jr. of the MCU, and he looks like he's starting to get the numbers to back that up. It's also almost at 500 million worldwide, just 3 weeks being released, globally. 2 weeks in the US, 3 weeks worldwide. So I think that puts the $1 billion club now within striking distance. That's very, very impressive. We once worried that Fantastic Beasts would cut down the momentum of Doctor Strange, but now I think Fantastic Beasts needs to be very worried. Or perhaps there's room for all kinds of magic at the box office this holiday season. Then as for Trolls, speaking of magic, it seems that DreamWorks Animation's wishes have come true. Because, they've had a really rough time of it as of late. But this movie, in addition to an amazing second weekend hold, it's already passed the century mark domestically. That's amazing! It's at $222 million worldwide, and I really do think that, as we discussed last week, that DreamWorks Animation has themselves a new franchise. So that's amazing. To go in line with Shrek, Madagascar, Kung Fu Panda, and now Trolls. Like, really, Trolls and not Megamind? Oh, it's so frustrating. But for those of you who do like Trolls, congratulations. You will be seeing, I see Trolls in your future. Then Hacksaw Ridge, of course, that got a Veterans Day boost. But also, I think that the strong opening last weekend was a signal to people who maybe were on the fence about going that it was okay to go. You might have, complicated feelings about Mel Gibson, but audiences and the general public have decided to back this film, right? So everyone, some people were like, are we going with this? And the first wave was like, yeah, we're going with it because it's such a good movie. I think this is a fabulous film, and many others do as well. And so you're seeing a very, very strong hold. I think this bodes excellent for Hacksaw Ridge's awards chances, particularly for Andrew Garfield for best actor. But this is such a good hold, and if it can keep this up, maybe it'll have a little bit more momentum in some other categories as well. I still don't think for Mel Gibson, but maybe we'll see. Maybe there's some other areas it could get noticed. Now, getting noticed. I'm so happy for The Accountant, because at first it was getting all the wrong notices, right? Like, it was very scary that it wasn't going to do well. And it hasn't crossed the century mark domestically like Trolls has, but it has gotten to $128 million worldwide, and with just a $44 million budget, it's already in the green, even when you account for advertising dollars. So that's a great position to put it in for streaming, and I think that bodes well for a potential sequel. It's already done better than John Wick. It costs more money than John Wick, but it's doing much better than John Wick. And it's almost about to surpass Jack Reacher, the first Jack Reacher's domestic haul, and now it's just got to pull in that money overseas. And also, even beyond The Accountant as a movie itself, when it comes to Ben Affleck, this puts Live by Night in a nice position as well. It would really not be helpful for that film for him to come off a box office stinker, but now this is a very respectable box office performance. Now let's turn our attention to the specialty market, where Billy Lynn's Halftime Walk from Ang Lee debuted with little fanfare. It was supposed to be this big deal. It's like cutting edge technology. But I think at this point, after what Peter Jackson experienced with The Hobbit, methinks the audience doesn't really care that much about frame rate. It's not working. I suspect it's like VR, to be perfectly honest with you. I'll be surprised if VR catches on, but I'm open to being proven wrong. But Billy Lynn's Halftime Long Walk or whatever, it's such a bad title. And anyway, its per theater average was very strong, but for comparison's sake, Moonlight also topped 100,000 per theater average when it opened, but it was in 4 theaters. So it was able to do that across 4 theaters, while Billy Lynn's just in 2. I think the buzz for this, the awards buzz for this film is going to be pretty weak. It does go wide this coming weekend. We'll talk about that in just a moment. But first, I want to let you know that because the awards season is coming up, I want to give you a heads up now. I'm going to start doing it for like smaller releases, right? So in the specialty market this coming weekend, Amy Adams is back with Nocturnal Animals. Like a shadow will split her awards momentum, between that and Arrival. And then Manchester by the Sea also hits theaters. This is not only the Matt Damon produced film starring Ben Affleck's brother, Casey Affleck, but it's also from Amazon. So that's a very important movie. Let's see here. And then Fantastic Beasts, of course, for the wide movies. Fantastic Beasts is set to open with $78 million. Can it match or top Doctor Strange? That's the pacemaker now. And now, so far, Fantastic Beasts is set to come in a little underneath that. Edge of 17 is supposed to open with 12. That's not bad for Haley Steinfeld, but she's in a close race with Billy Lynn, who's also expected to open with 12 wide. And then Bleed for this continues the bleeding out of Miles Teller's career, as it's set to open with just $5.5 million. So that's the weekend box office. Thank you so much for going over it with me. I'm curious, what do you think? Were you one of the people who saw one of these movies in their second weekend? What made you decide to go? And then also, what do you think of Amy Adams' decision to go with the Arrival over Nocturnal Animals for awards season? And just how do you feel the overall box office is shaping up? Oh, and also, I guess the last thing I want to ask you is, what do you think was the reason for these holds? Good movies? The holiday season, just wanting to get out there, either be the holiday season in general or Veterans Day. And then, of course, do you believe that it was group therapy coming off of our election on Tuesday? Write your thoughts down below, and you can check out some more videos right now.